Hey everybody! So, if you've been sleeping on the Storm Tanzutsu in Legends, you're missing one of the most underrated control tools in the entire game. This thing isn't your typical kill enemies instantly weapon, and that's exactly why it's so strong. Today, we're breaking down what makes this weapon unique, how to actually use it properly, best perks to pair it with, and why it might be one of the best utility legendaries in high level play. So first, let's talk about the core identity of this weapon. The Storm Tanzutsu comes with a massive 6 round capacity, rapid fire capability, and it has a 30% damage reduction. Now, that damage penalty might sound bad, but if you treat this like a DPS weapon, you're already using it wrong. This is not a gun that kills everything instantly like the Tagenashima. This is for control, utility, and for setup. So think of it less like a sniper and more like a battlefield disruptor. Okay, so let's break down what actually makes this gun powerful. First, you have shield breaking utility. This thing pretty much instantly destroys shields. That alone makes it super valuable, especially for classes that don't have easy access to shield breaking tools like the Kusarigama. As soon as you shoot, you can immediately open enemies up for melee follow ups, for team damage, or just to reposition yourself safely. Now, with this weapon, you have a ton of stagger and control. This uh, gun will stagger almost every enemy in the game. The only real exception here are the heavier enemies, like the Bohia demons. But for everything else, you're basically locking enemies in place for a couple seconds. And this makes it insanely strong for interrupting attacks, for saving teammates, and just basically for creating breathing room for yourself. Now, if you apply the fire perk to it, the ignition perk, which is the one that you need to apply to it, this weapon really starts to shine because you apply burn instantly, you control enemies, and you finish targets that normally require some setup. So this is really useful in situations like enemies that normally require Onibi or modifiers where enemies can only die to range damage. Instead of setting everything up perfectly, you just shoot, burn, and finish. Even with reduced damage, the rapid fire burst is extremely valuable. You can dump multiple shots quickly into Yuki Onna, into high threat Oni, into just basically priority targets in survival and any other mode. It is not about one shotting everything, it's about stacking pressure instantly. There is also a mobility tech where you basically jump and fire. And this is a big one that a lot of people don't use enough. You can fire multiple shots mid-air, up to around 3 shots in a single jump. So that means you can stay mobile, you avoid damage, and you still output pressure. This is huge in higher difficulty content where standing still can get you killed. Now, how to use this weapon properly? And this is where most people get it wrong or where people don't like this legendary. And it's basically, again, the Storm Tanzutsu is not meant to one-shot enemies or replace your main damage source. Instead, you should be using it for crowd control. So you shoot into groups to stagger enemies, you break shields, you apply burns. You can also use it as an engagement tool. So you can open fights by disrupting enemy formations, by weakening key targets, by staggering pretty much every enemy and then just start hitting them with your melee weapon. And then you can set up for combos. So you can, for example, shoot, stagger, and then follow with melee. Shoot, burn, and finish with range. You can shoot, reposition, re-engage. So this is a weapon that creates openings. This is a utility weapon. It is not a finisher. So let's talk builds because this thing gets pretty crazy with the right setup. And I think one of the best uses for this weapon is basically mercenary builds. Because of the way that you play Mercenary and you're using thrown weapons and you have all these cooldowns aimed to recharge ghost tools When you use your ultimate, you can recharge your ghost tools. You're basically using all the abilities in a really great synergy because you can shoot with the Tanzutsu, then you can finish with the throw, and then you're constantly cycling other tools. You can cycle kunai, you can cycle the ghost bomb. So it's a non-stop engine basically. You can just keep using it all the time. Now, since it applies burns so well, it fits perfectly into builds that use fire damage or that have fire damage multipliers. It fits well into builds that have status effect multipliers because you're basically turning every shot into damage over time, into crowd control, and into setup for kills. Now, even outside range focused classes, this weapon still works. On something like a samurai, you can still gain range utility, you fix shield issues, you add control to your kit. So it's an option for samurai. It's not the best option, but it's an option you could use it with the samurai. So yeah, the Storm Tanzutsu is not a top damage weapon, but that's not the point. It's one of the best control tools. It's one of the most flexible utility weapons. And honestly, it's one of the most fun legendaries to play. Like every time I shoot it, I remember that scene in Indiana Jones where there's a dude with a bunch of swords and he just pulls out his weapon and shoots him in the face. That's kind of what it feels like. So as long as you stop trying to use it like a sniper and you start using it like a crowd control weapon, it that is when it really clicks. Now, if you've used this weapon before, let me know how you're running it, especially if you got some crazy builds. And if you haven't tried it yet, give it a shot. It might surprise you. Now, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful in any way, and if you enjoy my content and want to support the channel, there are a few simple ways you can do that. First, share this video with a friend. Second, hit that subscribe button. And third, if you'd like to go the extra mile, you can support me by heading over to buymeacoffee.com/allbashgaming. I appreciate you all, and I will catch you on the next one.